welcome to my channel. Well, we're back to where it started when I had my issue, and I think I'm starting to get, back in the swing of things on my channel, because really, if every time you do a video, you have to physically pull out the memory card out of another phone, that means you have to unmount two SD cards, and I'm getting faster at it, but still, it's just another thing that I had to add into there and then swap back, and it was a pain in the butt. And basically, ignorance on my part for not formatting the SD card when I put it in there, or figuring out that's what I needed to do. I finally figured it out by accident. I didn't even logically figure it out. It was like, boom, one time I was like, oh, I forgot to swap the card back out. But anyway, we'll find out if this thing is cursed. This book is cursed, because this is what I was covering. This is what I was trying to cover when everything went south with the card. Now, the memory card. Now, what I'd like to say is I'm just going to read one story out of this. I would recommend you get this book if you're interested in any of the subjects, pertained here. And just from the cover of it, now, the author also does all the illustrations in this book too, so this guy's pretty talented. Besides being an author and everything, that's pretty good artwork there. I mean, that's like comic book quality. But one of the things I wanted to say in there, and he has a disclaimer at the beginning of the book that he doesn't condone knife fighting or learning how to do it, that it's dangerous and all this other stuff. But if you look at this, who's winning this fight right here? They're both getting cut. And I think that's the main point you need to draw out of this, is that when it comes to an actual knife fight, even if you're the best in the world, you're gonna get bloodied, So it's not to glamorize this stuff. But again, this is signed by the author, and this book was donated to me by an anonymous viewer, so I appreciate that. Let me get to a story to read to you. Well, I don't think I'll read a story. I'll just show the table of contents in here, because some of these stories are pretty long. But there are a lot of interesting stories in this book. Yeah, I watched this. He goes, "The Adventures of Jim Bowie." Now, in this actual TV series, they started off as saying "The Adventures of Jim Bowie," and that's not the way it's pronounced. I mean, especially not here in Texas and everything. It's Bowie. Now, I don't care how you pronounce it. Sometimes I call it both, because Bowie is the way it's pronounced. Let me get in here. I like this one. In the beginning, there was James Bowie. Bowie, the name rhymes with Louis, not Joey, is one of the historical figures about whom considerably more has been written than known facts would seem to justify. He left no account of his life, and his brother Rezin, whom he was close, wrote only one published letter about him. Most biographies draw upon folk tales, the scant facts about his life that are on record, and recollections of friends and relatives, many of whom never met him. As for his countless knife fights, his more conscientious biographers admit there's evidence of only one. James Bowie's father, Rezin, I call him Rezin, fought in the American Revolution as a teenager and was taken prisoner at Savannah. His hand was badly injured when he warded off a saber blow from a British officer. While recuperating, he fell in love with his nurse, Elbe, and I guess, and married her in 1782. Resident Elbe had 10 children, 6 of whom survived to adulthood. And then the Bowies moved to Louisiana, not yet a part of the United States. They were a fighting stock. See, shows right here, this is the sandbar fight. When he gets run through by a sword cane more than once. So you can kind of like look through some of this, but it goes into more detail about the sandbar fight, but there's really like there's really only some accounts. You know, there's only like 2 or 3 accounts. I don't know if I can read this whole thing because we're already at 6 minutes. But again, you know, this is how legends are made. You know, stories get published, people start talking about them, and if they don't have facts, they start making up stuff. And there's no one to dispute it because, you know, nobody was, you know, there's not that many eyewitnesses. The best accounts they have are of from newspapers and stuff like that, of accounts of after it happened. But again, a lot of that is sensationalized just to get more views, and it was just a way they wrote about a lot of stuff back then. But anyways, hopefully this video makes it through. I'll just show you some different pictures in here when we get to illustrations. Different types of knives and stuff. And really, like I said, it's an amazing book, you know, to read about. Second greatest Bowie knife fighter, Cassius Marcellus Clay. So yeah, there's a lot of history in it. This was the one I read, man. It was wild. This is a wild story right here. D. Harkey's knife fight with George Young. Yeah, that's an interesting one. So, yeah, again, I'd recommend this book. It's pretty interesting. We'll read the back cover here. In 1827, James Bowie carved his way into American history at the sandbar fight, and soon every fighting man of the South and West had to have a knife like his. The Bowie knife could cut like a razor, chop like a cleaver, and stab like a sword, and many considered it deadlier than a pistol at close range. So great was the dread it inspired that by 1838 it was banned in several states, a ban that did little to staunch the flow of blood. Bowie's story is well known, but what of the other cutters and stabbers of his days? Gunfighters have long been celebrated, but those who fought with the Bowie knife have largely been ignored until now. Unearthing accounts from memoirs, court records, regional histories, and newspaper archives, Paul Kirchner, author of Paladin's bestseller The Deadliest Men and More of the Deadliest Men Who Ever Lived, presents their stories for the first time in Bowie Knife Fights, Fighters and Fighting Techniques. Kirchner identifies and profiles the 4 greatest Bowie knife fighters of history, as well as numerous other wielders of the blade. He details the weapons used in Texas War of Independence, the Mormon Exodus, the Mexican War, the slave system, the Gold Rush, Bleeding Kansas, the Civil War, the Lincoln Assassination, the Indian Wars, and the Western Frontier. The book describes the Bowie knife fighting tricks and techniques and provides numerous accounts of knife fight against knife and knife against gun encounters. Its final chapter surveys the continued use of the Bowie and other fighting knives in modern warfare. And there's like the ISBN number if you want to do it, and a QR code. So yeah, hopefully this video makes it. Thank you for understanding my problem with technology. Hey, I'm old, but I'm stubborn also. Eventually, you know, if there's a problem and it can be solved. I'm going to try to solve it if it can be solved by a human being. But anyways, thank you for watching, and have a nice day. And don't get cut.